Here in Emerson, Ferndale, Sumas, these communities were extremely hard hit. The amount of water that came through this community at significant speed is stunning. It's frankly something I didn't appreciate till I came here and saw it. But we talked to families who recognize this community has hit by the strong currents of the Nooksack River, but they have been saved by the strong currents of community strength that we have seen from this community. I have seen folks who were rescued in front end loader buckets, folks who were rescued by fast water rescue personnel who sat on tops of their cars for 5 hours. We've had a very unfortunate loss of one life, but frankly it's extremely good fortune that there has not been more loss of life in this community. And that has been a fortunate result because of the strength of character and the can-do spirit of people who helped their neighbors here, of search and rescue personnel, of fire department personnel, police personnel, and emergency services. It's an extraordinary effort that I've witnessed here. The damage is significant. We think early estimates that as many or more than 500 homes have had significant damage. And of course, we are going to be aggressive in our efforts to obtain federal assistance for these homeowners and business owners. It will be some period of time whether that can be obtained or not. We will be very assertive, and I'm very appreciative of the local leaders, the mayors, Mayor Hansen's here, and Sapal's here, who are already assessing the damage. They've been very creative. In fact, they have some of our teachers and educators already out going door to door to seek damage assessments. And we will be compiling those damage assessments, and will seek assistance if we can make a reasonable case to have individualized assistance from the federal government. But we won't have answers for that for some period of time. A comment going forward, we are in a permanent state of attack in our state by the forces of climate change. We saw it from the heat dome that hurt our farmers in eastern Washington. We saw temperatures and drought that caused massive forest fires in the Methow Valley. And we have to realize that we're going to face decades of increased floods in our state of Washington. This is one flood of unfortunately many that we will be experiencing. And all of us are going to have to band together to become as resilient as possible facing the increased flood threats that we will be facing. I just talked to a homeowner who got just finished rebuilding their homes, who were hit in the 2020 floods, and just finished that, and now they recognize they're probably not going to be able to keep their home given the recurrent floods that they are experiencing. Fortunately, I want to thank President Biden and the Congress that just finished an infrastructure bill that will have hundreds of millions of dollars available to help rebuild some of our roads to make them more resilient, to rebuild some of our sewer and water systems so that they can accommodate these future floods and events that we're suffering. But we're all going to have to work together to deal with this increasing threat that we are seeing. So with that, I'm happy, the Mayor of Stanford, would you like to see anything, Mayor, about your town?
Thank you.
You're good?
Yep.
Representative Rule, you want to say anything?
Sure.
A chance?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I want to first thank the governor for being here for our community. I also want to make sure that we acknowledge the community volunteers and our first responders. They have been the true heroes up front. They have been out there rescuing people, hanging off of front loaders, and really day and night. So thank you all so much for coming together like the community that we know that we are in Whatcom County, looking after our neighbors and taking care of one another.
Good evening, everybody. We are thankful to the governor and the resources offered to us and his staff people who've been here today. to personally come and see and meet with some of the victims of these floods, as well as that this effort's going to be for a few months. It's not only a couple of days, and we look forward to work with the state to make good for our people, people who have suffered this damage, that we are able to help them in time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Snowball. I should add too that this is not the only area we're working on. The Makah tribe has been isolated by this flood. The Lummi tribe has been isolated. The Quileutes. This has been a statewide, in some sense, flood. And our emergency service department is working with all of those communities to try to open up access for food and medicine that they certainly need. Robert Azella is here coordinating our emergency services. If you have any questions, he can stand for questions as well. With that, we'll be happy to stand for your questions.
Governor, you said it may take some time before you'll know if you can apply for federal aid. There are immediate needs. What kind of state assistance will be available for some of the immediate needs?
Well, we've been talking with the local mayors about that. We're looking whether the Department of Commerce can provide any immediate housing assistance. We don't have answers yet for that, but we are talking to the mayors to try to coordinate the immediate housing needs. We still have dozens of people in shelters. The shelters are in fairly decent shape at the moment, but we will be asking whether there is some federal assistance for housing, because housing is of short supply here in this community, and therefore we're going to scrub every particular asset. We need it as soon as possible for these families. Now there is also, I should add, people, their contributions are welcome. There is a community organization that's already raised about $200,000, I believe, and we'll make that available for people who can chip in to help these families.
Anything to help businesses get going?
Well, yes, and we hope there are two pools of money federally. One is for individualized assistance, one is for businesses. And we have had some success getting loans for hard-hit businesses. And what we're doing right now is trying to compile the amount of damage so that if we get to a certain threshold, we can get some federal assistance. And we're going to do that as fast as humanly possible. But this is something that takes some time, and we just need to compile that information.
Do you have data yet on how bad this flood was? I mean, is it the worst ever, the highest ever, one of the top three?
So I'm told that this did top all-time flood levels in certain locations. And it came on very fast. And frankly, it exceeded some of the modeling. So the water came up and exceeded what the models predicted. That's one of the reasons we had the level of damage that we had. I know we're going to go back and look at our modeling to see if there's anything to be learned from this experience. But I got to tell you, you can't understand this unless you've seen it. I was with the Cunningham family that it was a family that just had fixed their house from the 2020 flood. And you look at it, and there was acres and acres and acres. It was all river. This was not a pool of water. It was acres of moving water at maybe 4 to 6 knots. People were in the middle of a river that was a berry field the day before. And until you really see that, you don't understand how devastating this flood can be. And that's why all of us are going to have to band together to figure out how to make these communities more resilient. How do we build up our roads so that they can survive these floods? How do we have sewer and water systems that aren't taken out, like some of these sewer plants were taken out? This is something that's going to be the challenge for years to come. Now, we are hoping that our legislature actually can act on a transportation bill this year, in part to answer the need of these communities. And we're looking forward to the infrastructure dollars coming from the infrastructure bill from Congress. There are several pools of money in that bill with hundreds of millions of dollars that are targeted to help communities like this to become more resilient. We're going to look forward to some of that money coming right here.
Governor, how does this flooding today compare to the Inslee flood back in 1990? $21 million worth of damage.
I don't know the answer. It's too early to answer that. But when you have over 500 probably homes that have had substantial damage, it's going to be very significant. We know that.
So
And the one thing I'll ask everyone who has suffered damage, compile records about your damage, give it to your city. The city will then put it in the pool, and the more dollars that we can compile, the more likely it is that we can get federal assistance, particularly for individualized assistance for individualized homeowners. That's very important. So if you've got a dollar damage, tell your mayor about it. Very important.
Governor, if you could, I want to talk to you about, you talked about it earlier, the climate change. If you could just comment on 2021 has been a wild year across this state in extremes. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, the point I was making is you can run from climate change, but you can't hide. It'll get you. Our wheat crop was down maybe 20%. Our wine grapes had smoke damage from the fires. We had a heat dome where dozens of people lost their lives because of just heat stress. People in the Methow Valley had the worst air quality in the world last summer because of the forest fires. And now here we are in Whatcom County and in the Macaw Reservation on the Olympic Peninsula with unprecedented floods. This is a phenomenon that we have to grapple with, and we have to band together to help each other to become a more resilient community and fight the source of climate change, which is pollution. So we got to recognize that's a reality we're going to have to work on in the years to come. Anything else? Senator Shumay, is she here yet?
Not yet, Governor.
We were joined by Senator Shumay, who I know is going to work in the legislature to handle these problems. With that, be well. Stay dry.
Thank you.